This episode of the Helping Healing Humor podcast is brought to you in partnership with ministryleague.com. We would love for more people to discover this show, so please rate and review us on iTunes or your podcast provider. Feel free to share on your social media and subscribe at benandtravis.com for the free ebook, 28 Days of Focused Living.
Welcome in to the Helping Healing Humor podcast with Ben and Travis. It's good to be with everyone weekly. We get to spend some time together. Obviously, that would be enough for me to do this, just to get to hang out with my cousin Ben Hayes and Will Myhan on the regular. You guys doing all right?
Doing great. Always thankful to be able to hang out with you guys as well.
Yeah, doing really well. I hate I missed Mama Joy's stuff. Was solid content, so I hope everybody went and caught those episodes, but excited about today and just look forward to a good conversation.
Well, today we have with us Dr. Laws Rushing II. He is the new president of Riverside Christian Academy and therefore my boss, so I'll certainly be on my best behavior today. He's here with us, and he's going to talk a little bit about his journey to and through the Lord, but he's also got a new ebook coming out. Actually, it's already available. The Weary World Rejoices, and that's going to be one of those deals that is going to have a daily devotional as we get ready. You can, as I was saying to the guys earlier, you can wrap up our most grateful Thanksgiving ever ebook and roll right into the Weary World Rejoices. And of course, if you're listening to the audio, you may not be able to see this, but challenge you to look at the video. He's wearing his awesome, ugly Christmas sweater. Dr. Rushing, how are you?
Good. Well, I'm excited to be with you guys, and a fan of the show. And so when I began to get to know Travis and seeing what you guys are doing and producing, I asked immediately, well, why aren't we promoting that and showing that on the Riverside Christian Academy Facebook and promoting it? And he said, I don't know. And I said, well, let's put that out there. This is good stuff. So I'm a fan of what you guys are doing and happy that we can support and promote the show through Riverside Christian Academy. So I'm honored and humbled to be with you guys.
Well, tell us just a little bit about the ebook, how it's kind of set up. I gave a little bit and how we can get a hold of that.
Yes. Well, we've here at Riverside Christian Academy wanted to produce something that would be encouraging and spiritual for our families here in the school and also with the community at large. And actually, Travis, your wife had the idea for it. And she said, why don't you do a Christmas book and a devotional book? And I was like, I think I can do that. And so I went to work on it and wrote 27 days of Christmas devotional material to inspire, to encourage, to also to try to bring that sense of awe when we think about things associated with the nativity of Jesus, which, you know, the doctrine of the incarnation, the prophetic voice that was hundreds of years prior to Jesus, and just kind of get into that spiritual mode and think about Christ coming to earth and bringing that spiritual awareness and just encouraging people in this season.
That sounds like an amazing thing. And you hit on a couple of things. And one of those was that Whitney is definitely the better half of the Travis and Whitney group there. And I apologize that Travis called your sweater ugly.
Yeah, I know. And guys,
I'm just sorry.
And the thing is I'm really paying the price here because it's warm and I'm sweating already. And this is all about the show. I'm sacrificing. It's all about the book. And here I am sweating for it.
And he disses you like that. I mean, that's just
it's
wrong, Travis.
It is a humid November. Like somebody needs to let somebody know it is November.
Yeah, I agree with you. I was wearing shorts and t-shirt all day yesterday, so.
And here I am in a sweater.
And you're in a sweater. I'm burning up, and I'm just in like, a button-up shirt. So
Yeah, so I'm drenched underneath here. I'm just pouring down sweat, out of every.
Well, now we
Or-
really need to drag this
Well,
out as long as
yeah,
possible.
this is a
Yeah.
Please.
this is a family show, so you can't take that off. You just got to leave it on the rest of the
It's
time.
all for the book. It's all for the show. I'm here.
So you talk about the book, really excited to kind of dig into that. So when is it going to be available? Where are we going to be able to get it? How's that going to work?
It's available now, and I'm hoping that we'll be able to produce a link for you guys to share with folks. And the devotional begins on the 29th of November. So we've got a little time to get it out there to folks. And so Sunday, the 29th is when that devotional begins, all the way to Christmas Day, the 25th of December.
And I think there are going to be some, recipes along with that.
Oh yeah, of course.
and
There's some
maybe
bonuses.
even a playlist,
Yeah,
song
there's some
playlist.
bonuses that follow once you receive the book. Then there's going to be some nice bonuses like a Christmas playlist, recipe, and some other goodies that'll be, and some surprises. You got to have some gifts since it's Christmas time, so we're going to add to it. And
do you give us any kind of rundown of your favorite like Hallmark Christmas movies? My wife would be interested in that. And
well, guys, I got to keep some respect here with you guys. It's like I wouldn't admit if I did watch those, but I'm more in the Wonderful Life category of the.
I'm a fan.
Of that, but the Lifetime, that's not going to happen.
It's like if you admit to liking Hallmark, you already just lowered yourself like 10 points.
Yeah,
in
man. No
everyone's
one's going to
book,
take me serious. We're trying to have this theological discussion here, and y'all are going to be like, man, he watches Hallmark movies. What?
My wife is going to automatically stop listening to this now because y'all dissed Hallmark movies.
Yeah, you've seen one, you've seen them all. I mean,
they're going to get together, right? At the end, they're going to get together.
That it's a huge shock, when the guy comes back from the airport. Like it's not happened yet.
Yeah.
He just leaves. It's like, bye. And the plane leaves, roll credits.
Yeah. So just end it, let it end that way. Oh, the world would burn at my house.
Good try, though. Good try at getting me to admit that I watch Hallmark.
I tried to get it in there, but it didn't work. So you wrote this book, sharing things about God, but kind of understand that there was a time in your life when maybe you were not running towards God, but maybe running away from him.
Yes.
So you want to share a little bit with us about just your journey?
Yes. So I was very blessed as a boy in my family to come from a very strong family of faith. My dad was an elder in the Lord's church and had two older sisters and got a twin brother, and grew up in the church and even began to preach at a very young age. I started preaching when I was 11 years old, and probably by the time I was 18, I'd preached at anywhere from 50 to 100 churches. I had my first regular church when I was 13. And so I had a passion for God and a zeal for God and a love for spiritual things. And so I felt God's calling and presence and all of those wonderful things, but I began to be influenced and to flirt around with the world and begin to kind of be curious, and then also to kind of become distracted. And I also was a musician. And so over time, one of those began to become more of a priority in my life. And sadly, it became, pursuing self-interest above God. And so I found myself in a destructive lifestyle. I dealt with substance abuse And, it was, there were many things that I learned in that process, but, it was kind of like, all right, you're going to have to learn things the hard way. And so it was that experience. But ultimately, the faith that had been instilled in me as a young boy was still there, even if it was very minute. And God was faithful to me, and so I came back to the Lord and to the church, and with a renewed sense, and really almost like a new relation. It was a new relationship with Christ, and so it was transformative. It changed the way I was living. I came out of being addicted to everything from tobacco to, anything that, all kinds of things. And, but was able to come out of that and begin serving again, and slowly taking on more and more responsibility as God saw fit. Because, to give me opportunities to serve in the kingdom.
That's a powerful story. And, when I think about that, I mean, we may have people who are listening who are struggling with addiction, struggling with, kind of that same concept of maybe not running away from God, but sometimes it just seems like you can't get to him. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but it's just like, I know people who are struggling with substance abuse who feel like they're running towards God, but they just are struggling to figure out how to connect with him. So I know you've probably got some insight on that, just on kind of how long your journey was and what that was like for you.
I hope that I have insights for folks. You want to help folks get further along in that process of recovery, whatever that is. And recovery is different for different people. What works in some instances may not work for another. But there's certain principles that apply across the board. One of the things, first of all, which you begin to see when you're running in that destructive cycle is you begin to see the horror stories that you read about, that you see in movies. I mean, there are so many people that I started out with living in a way that was selfish and substance abuse and that sort of thing that aren't here anymore. And so when you begin to see friends and people that you hung out with begin to fall off the earth, that's a pretty sobering thing. And then two, you get to the point within yourself to where you realize that there's something dramatically missing. And you've kind of taken up all this time trying to, console yourself and to kind of think that the rules are different, but then you realize that you're empty, and there's really none of those things that you pursued have gotten you what you really desire. It's kind of that old Augustine quote where, I'm only you, Lord, can fulfill the rest and that yearning that's within us. And it was when I came back to God, it was like all of the truth that I'd ever heard in my whole life just was weighing on me. And I just got to the point where I just could not refuse it anymore. And of course, when I turned back, it wasn't like everything magically disappeared and that, I didn't have the baggage of that lifestyle, because I had the baggage. I had the fight. I had to work. I had to find a way through it. But it became clear and of what I needed to do to begin that process of healing, that process of getting right with God. And so a lot of things happened for me as far as finding a community of believers who accepted me in all of my, I don't have this figured out yet. And also my parents, of course, were as patient can be, loving me, praying for me, and just, being there for me.
I think you said something pretty interesting. Of course, I work with our students here, and I've been talking with a lot of our college students, and it even kind of goes into some of our young adults that have maybe found themselves in similar situations. And you made a statement there that when I came back, I still had the baggage. Um, Maybe speak to that a minute on how did you continue to get through that baggage and not, because I know a lot of times we want to move on and then all that baggage starts showing up even more. And so it's, how did you continue to push through that? Maybe when that stuff kind of came up and reared its head, still in your life.
Right. I mean, it was kind of about seeing Jesus for who he really is again too. Like, I kind of let the world and even believers kind of begin to dictate who Jesus was to me. And, and I didn't like that Jesus. And it made me want to go away from that Jesus. Like, oh, the Jesus that is in other people's mouths, the Jesus that's in other people's eyes, the Jesus that other people, and that kind of stigma that is in Christianity. And so I let that kind of, decide for me that I don't know if I want that. But beginning the process of seeing Jesus for who he really is in the Gospels, just how radical, how much of a different person he was in history, like, and then finding that relationship with him through Scripture, through the Holy Spirit, through the community of believers that I had found to be with, and so it was kind of that renewed sense of who Jesus really, like, I finally could see him again, and not what other people were saying about him, not what other church, it was like I finally knew who Jesus was, and that knowing who Jesus is, because he encountered people who were filled with baggage. I mean, you look at the woman at the well, baggage. How many times was she married? The sinful woman in Luke chapter 7. You go time and time again. Peter. I mean, come on, everybody. Peter still gets. We all know who he was. We've got a friend like him if it's not us. And so Jesus was around all these people who had all this baggage, and he still loved them. He still worked with them. And if Jesus did it for them on earth, then he's gonna get me through it. And so I think understanding who Jesus is the most powerful thing that can get you through that. It's I know that that's not like a practical thing. It's more of a conceptual thing as far as insight. But that was a big thing for me as far as getting me from A to B out of that lifestyle.
I think you mentioned how we see Jesus, but then also how he sees us.
Yes.
He knows all the baggage.
Yes.
He knows the stuff about Peter that we don't know. He knows the stuff about Travis or Laws or Ben or Will or whoever you are out there listening to this. He knows everything about you and finds value, regardless of how much baggage you have. It doesn't keep him from being who he is, because we all have airs that we put on for certain people. And sometimes that's good. I mean, socially acceptable and types of things, but there's no putting an air on for Jesus. He knows who you are, what you've done, how many times you've done it. And, he still sees you as valuable. And, that's a very attractive thing. And that was going to be my question, maybe if you've got some pointers to, the group that you said was kind of a part of your redemption,
Yes.
who were open to you to coming back, what were some things that they did to let you come back and
Right.
promote you seeing Jesus for who he is?
It wasn't like I had to pass some litmus test or some magic, jump through a bunch of hoops to be like, oh, okay, we're going to accept you back now. It was basically like, okay, you're here. we're going to love you. You belong here. And then gave me small opportunities to serve that, of course, fit where I was spiritually. And of course, I think the Lord was a part of that process too. He never gave me anything that I couldn't handle at the time, as far as responsibility or in the kingdom. Like, it's interesting to look back over my life, and how you come back and you want to serve in a profound way, and you want that to happen, and the Lord's like, okay, here you go. Here you can serve. Here you can serve by working with the homeless in Nashville. If you want to serve, here you go. I'm going to give you something to do.
Yeah.
Here's something to do, and you're going to have to. This is where you're going to start. This is where you're going to begin. I was totally sold out for it. I wanted to be right where I was, and God just kept giving me different opportunities to serve, and that also became more of a prevalent thought, is the servant attitude, which of course was shaped by my renewed sense of who Jesus was. How can I serve, as opposed to being a preacher or being a I don't know, just it was the service aspect that kind of brought me into where I was now occupying my time with constructive things, as opposed to having destructive things to do.
And I've worked some with addictions and things with some different groups around here, and and obviously read and studied a lot on that. And one of the things that seems to be, you find some things are helpful to people, some things are helpful to some people and not helpful to others. But one of the consistent things, it seems like, is that there's a group of people to hold you accountable. There's a group of people that you can, and what we hope and what we would love to say is that that's the church. The church are the ones that do that. That's not always the case. Obviously people find that in groups and different things, but that's such a big thing. And I know Lonnie, I don't remember if he got this from somewhere or if it's from Lonnie Jones himself, but he talks about attention, belonging, and support. Those are the three things. Like, I need to have that attention. I need to feel as though I belong, and I need to have that support around me. And that's what teenagers are looking for. And a lot of times when they don't get that, that's when they turn to the places where they can find attention and belonging and support. And so being the people of God who provide that. And I think that was what was so, so big about what you said earlier, not just the church, but we find that in Jesus. We find attention, belonging, and support, and all those different people in the New Testament that came to him, in the Gospels that came to him, and the movie or the TV show, The Chosen. Just, I know it's not real. I know it's not all the exact things that happen, but man, it does such a good job of sort of showing how Jesus connected with people. And I think some of the older movies and TV shows have always fallen short on that. I feel like that he's always kind of staring off into the distance, or he's not touchable, he's not reachable, he's not, connectable. And, they did such a good job of making that where you go out, that he sees the people, he connects with the people, and that's what he wants to do with us. And hopefully as a church, that's what we emulate. We reenact that to the people around us.
Yes, that's no doubt.
You talk about, your relationship with Jesus, how that viewpoint of him kind of changed the community of believers that kind of rallied around you, and what Ben talked about. But what about how God changed in your mind? I know we kind of talk about, and I know for me in today's world, my job revolves around getting people to see, or getting teenagers, to see how great God really is. And sometimes that becomes a pretty difficult task when things aren't necessarily going our way. And so through this struggle, kind of through some of those hardships, what did you start to learn about God and who he was to you?
Well, I think that definitely his sovereignty and his providence in my life certainly was there. And I was, there were folks who thought I might be past, that point of no return, with my life. And I even thought that. I mean, to be honest with you, it's like, is there can I make that distance back? It's kind of like that looking across the shore. It's like, I'm going to have to swim all the way back there. And it wasn't even that I was really going back. I was going to a whole new place. I didn't go back. I went to God, really, as far as, but he was, as the old saying, wooing, me back to him. But the way that it changed was as far as God being active in my life. It wasn't this totally removed, so transcendent that he's not working. He's working in every part of my life, even this small, insignificant stuff. He's trying to get me where I need to be. And when I look back over my life, I think it was Kierkegaard who said that you can only live your life forward, but it makes sense when you're looking backward. And that's I can see God, a thread of his activity, through my whole life, of who I was around, of the opportunities that I got, and coming out of and giving me the strength to come out of that addictive process. And I tell people too that when you look at addiction, that is a form of transcendence, that you are overcoming what you physically naturally want to do. So in some sense, when they talk about the higher power, say in AA, there is a self-transcendence that happens because you're not doing what your body is telling you to do. And so that has to be a supernatural part. There has to be that component, or at least for me, that's where God stepped into that moment between, hey, either you can do this or you can do that. And being able to come out of that addiction cycle is a supernatural phenomenon. And so for me, it's kind of a proof of God, that God can make people and help people through addictive circumstances.
We have the story of the prodigal son, and obviously I'm sure that you see some connections there in that story. There's that moment that I think we all have had at some point as Christians, where we come to ourselves, and he came to himself.
Yes.
And realized what he had given up. Is there a moment or, something that you can share with our listeners that kind of struck you where, okay, something's got to go? I know a lot of times it's several things sometimes.
Yes.
But was there a moment, or were there moments maybe that you can point to where you kind of came to yourself, as we Christians do?
Right.
Probably multiple times throughout our life, just to be honest.
Well, I didn't have like just an epiphany to where it was just like one moment where everything was just like, okay, you hear of those conversion stories of people. It wasn't in that way. And to me, that's an encouraging thing, because, if you're waiting around for God to strike you, then, maybe that's, draw nigh to me and I will draw nigh to you, James says. And so, it's just as much about what I'm doing and pursuing God as him pursuing me. But I tell this story just to let you know about the far goneness of myself. My sister invited me to church, and I hadn't been, in years. And so the preacher's preaching, and I'm sitting in there, and I feel out of place. I feel, I probably had long hair. I don't know what I was looking like at the time. Probably not exactly churchy. But, and so the preacher's preaching, and in the middle of the sermon has a heart attack and dies in front of the church. And yeah, dramatic moment. And so I get home, and then one of my family members says, that's what happens when you go to church. And to me, it just kind of illustrates if that's what he thought about me as far as my chances at getting back into that kind of mode of thought and mode of living. But God is faithful, even in our faithlessness. And so, all of it is really God's power. God is where I am short, where I am weak, where I have everything that I am or ever hope to be is because of God's grace, period. And so he is an amazing God that is able to help us through any trial, through any sorrow, through any storm. And that's been the case in my life.
We like to wrap up all the shows. We like to ask a fun question or two just to kind of bring it down a little bit, get to know you a little bit personally. Ben's played bass and rhythm guitar, right? In a band called the Doughboys, which we've not talked about very much. I'm not sure if Will's ever played any music or not.
Hey, I was in the jazz band.
There
I played in Carnegie Hall and Pearl Harbor, several places.
Sweet. All right. I played bass guitar. Laws has been the lead singer, so we may have our own band here in the working. Who knows? But Laws, if you could pinpoint one artist that you could, if you had to listen to somebody forever, there's no other, who you going with?
That's a tough one. I don't know if I could name. I don't know if I could even listen to somebody forever.
Yeah.
Well, my tastes have changed, or my emphasis and taste have changed in my elder year. Now that I've grown my beard I like music now. I've kind of grown more towards instrumental music that is just like in the background, and I'm a classical music person now, more so. I used to always love it when I was a kid and what have you, but now I like just to be if the softer, the more, if it's mellow, that's direct. I used to like music just like right here in my face with my hair blowing back, but now it's like just soft and non-stressful. And just like, da, 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 da. So, well, I will answer this. My wife sings. And she has a beautiful voice. She's an angel. So I would choose my wife, and that's what I have chosen, right? I mean, I do. So, so I will say my wife would be my favorite artist at this point.
All kinds of bonus points coming out here. Well, Dr. Rushing, we're so thankful for you to join us for this first episode. Obviously, we're really excited to talk to you again for episode 2. Thank you for being with us.
Great to be here with you guys. God bless.
Hey, Travis, what is the largest bone in the body?
That's the femur, that long bone that goes from your hip socket and connects to your knee.
So let's say that you fell and broke your femur. Do you fix it yourself?
I mean, if you're Batman, but those of us in the real world would go to a specialist to help set that bone back into place and begin that healing process.
Well, now what if your emotions get broken? What should you do? Do you fix it yourself, or might it be helpful for you to go and talk to a counselor who can help you get things straightened out?
I think you're talking about our sponsors at Serenity Counseling in Florence, Alabama, who offer help and healing and even a dose of humor to assist their clients every day.
Yeah, the ladies at Serenity Counseling, Becky, Amy, Monica, and Karen, they offer all sorts of different kinds of therapy, from your talk therapy that we're used to play therapy for children, even EMDR or eye movement desensitization and reprocessing for those who have gone through traumatic events, and then even equine assisted psychotherapy.
Wait a minute, Ben. There's a lot of big words that you just said. That last one, assisted therapy, what is all that about?
Equine assisted therapy, Travis. Equine means horses. They use horses for therapy. Yes, horses are included and present during some of their outdoor sessions, Approaching Horses helps us reflect on how we approach our relationships and how we can face other big and overwhelming things in our lives.
Ben, that sounds like God showing up and showing out in his creation. Check out the link to their website in our show notes. If you've ever wondered if a counselor might be the answer to what you're struggling with, give them a call. Serenity Counseling, where hope is given and healing begins.
Serenity Counseling is located at 1954 Jackson Road in Florence, Alabama, and they can be reached at 256-263-6367, serenitycounselingshoals.org. Thanks for being with us for this episode of the Helping Healing Humor podcast. Be sure to download our free ebook, 28 Days of Focused Living, at benandtravis.com and receive all of our Helping Healing and Humor extra content directly in your inbox. We look forward to having you join us at the same Ben and Travis time, same Ben and Travis channel.